Greetings, people of the internet. I'm K.U.E.Z writer, and welcome to the very first episode of my Godzilla review series, the series where I review all the films of the Godzilla series. And considering that, well, last year was the King of the Monsters' 70th anniversary, it was about time I started doing this stream series of mine. And what better way to start it than with the film that started it all, the original 1954 classic, Gojira, also known in English as Godzilla. And you can't have a Godzilla review series without me, so roll the picture!
When the Japanese fishing freighter Eikomaru mysteriously sinks alongside the rescue ship Bingomaru, many journalists travel to Odo Island, where survivors of the sinking washed ashore. The survivors claim to have seen the ocean boiling and exploding, which caused an island elder to believe that the legendary sea monster Godzilla was responsible. On that night, a storm struck the island, with many houses being crushed by a tremendous force, with one of the islanders reporting to have seen a giant creature destroying his home, killing his brother and mother. Because of this, the Japanese government dispatched a fact-finding party to the island, being led by a Japanese paleontologist, Dr. Kyohei Yamane, played by Takashi Shimura. The search party came across a large radioactive hole, which Dr. Yamane concluded to be a large footprint after finding a trilobite in it. Suddenly, a warning was heard from the other side of the island, and as the team of researchers rushed up the hillside, they came face to face with Gojira himself, who roared at them before returning to the city. Meeting at the dive building, Dr. Yamane presented his theory that Godzilla lived in a deep underwater cavern since the Jurassic period, which would explain why the trilobite was found in the footprint. However, the print also contained strontium-90, which would suggest that Godzilla has been provoked from his peaceful life, as well as the destruction of his habitat from recent hydrogen bomb testing in the area. After debating whether to make the situation public or not, which ultimately resulted in issuing warnings to the public, the Japanese government proceeded to find ways to deal with the monster, with Dr. Yamane going against the idea and wanting to study the creature, due to it most likely being the last of its kind, and also because it has managed to survive H-bomb detonations. The Japanese Navy proceeded to drop depth charges into the sea where Godzilla was believed to be located. But before they could find out if the monster was dead, he surfaced in Tokyo Bay and soon came ashore in Shinagawa, causing destruction through the port area and dismantling a train before returning into the sea. Desperate countermeasures were enacted for Godzilla's inevitable return. Most citizens with closeness to Tokyo were evacuated, while a gigantic barrier of power lines carrying 50,000 volts of electricity was created around the entire metropolitan area. However, the plan failed. Gojira made his way through the heart of Tokyo, setting the city ablaze and smashing through many landmarks. The monster continued his rampage until he overturned the Kakidoki Bridge, proceeding to re-enter Tokyo Bay. Survivors of Gojira's attack were poisoned by the lethal radiation that he left in his wake, and after witnessing the destruction firsthand, Dr. Yamane's daughter, Emiko, played by Momoko Kochi, decided to break a promise she made to her lifetime friend, Daisuke Serizawa, played by Akihiko Hirata, telling her boyfriend, Hideto Ogata, played by Akira Takarada, that Serizawa invented a chemical compound that destroyed oxygen molecules in water, literally liquefying all life caught with the activation. Both believing that this oxygen destroyer was the only way to defeat the monster, traveled to Dr. Serizawa's lab and pleaded with him to use the invention against the monster. However, the doctor refused, fearing that politics would turn his invention into something far worse than nuclear weapons if they knew it existed. After seeing an on-screen prayer for peace sung by a group of schoolgirls from Tokyo, he was touched by the message, agreeing to use the oxygen destroyer only once against Gojira, proceeding to burn all of his research notes regarding the machine. Serizawa, alongside Ogata, Emiko, Dr. Yamane, and others, traveled on boat, which was able to locate Godzilla on the seafloor of Tokyo Bay. Serizawa and Ogata descended to the ocean floor, where they came upon arresting Godzilla. After carefully approaching the atomic monster, Serizawa had Ogata pulled back to the surface and activated the oxygen destroyer, proceeding to sever his line after wishing Emiko and Ogata happiness together. and ensuring that the secret of the oxygen destroyer would die alongside with him. Incapable of withstanding to the chemical weapon, the king of the monsters' remains were liquefied. The people on board the boat celebrated the monster's death and honored Serizawa's sacrifice. At the end of the day, Dr. Yamane warned that as long as nuclear testing continued, another Godzilla could awaken someday. Now, before talking about our thoughts, let me explain a bit of history. Back in the 1950s, Godzilla creator Tamiyuki Tanaka was returning to Japan after leaving Hong Kong, and outside of the plane's window, he dreamed of a giant creature awakened and mutated by hydrogen bomb testing. Tanaka also created Godzilla in an effort to illustrate the terror Japan felt after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, with the main themes of the film being 1. A powerful allegory for the horrors of nuclear weapons, 2. Post-war traumas and Japan's anxieties about scientific advancement, and 3. Sacrifice for the greater good. Yes, Godzilla was supposed to be brought to life by stop motion, but due to the time they had, they ended up using suitmation, which honestly is one of the main reasons that makes the Godzilla franchise so iconic. Now, our thoughts on the film. Starting off with the main human characters. First is Ogata, and honestly, he's pretty much a bland character, even though he has his moments. Second is Dr. Yamane, who is definitely one of the best characters in the film. You can see how fascinated he was to discover Godzilla, but is also struggling in his position as a paleontologist, as he believed that the atomic behemoth should be preserved and studied, unlike the Japanese government that wants to destroy the creature. Third on the list is Emiko. She's pretty likable, as you can understand how she feels with the Godzilla situation. Not only being terrified, but when she sees the people suffer from the aftermath of Godzilla's attack, you can see why she ultimately had to break her promise to her longtime friend, Dr. Serizawa. Speaking of the Doctor, Daisuke Serizawa is definitely the best and most interesting human character of the film. Being the creator of the oxygen destroyer, you can see why he wants its existence to be a secret, because how dangerous it is. And the fact that he burned all his research notes and sacrificed himself to erase the invention's existence, while also defeating Godzilla, is genuinely sad and respectful. The amazing score by Akira Ifukube is definitely one of his best scores ever, and of course, we can't forget that he created the King of the Monsters' iconic theme, which is easily one of the most iconic themes in fiction. The film's story is also good. Director Ishiro Honda really knew how to direct, especially in the later entries. And the special effects from the legendary Eiji Tsuburaya are still fantastic to look at, especially when his work on the Godzilla films would eventually result in him creating the Ultra series and fellow Japanese giant Ultraman. But of course, we can't do a Godzilla movie review without talking about the King of the Monsters himself. As the very first incarnation of the character, the original Gojira still shows the beast's incredible size and power as he rampages across Tokyo. Truly a monster to represent the fear of nuclear weapons, and while he is seen by most of the human cast as a heartless monster, if you read or seen official supplementary material regarding the original Godzilla, you can see that not only is he attacking humanity for horrifically scarring and mutating him, but also seeking vengeance for the death of his family from a hydrogen bomb test, as shown in Tomiyuki Tanaka's book, Definitive Edition Godzilla Introduction, which honestly makes us sympathize for him, as he's only attacking because of what our species has done to him, which makes his demise much sadder. Now, are there any problems with the film? Personally, not really, beside the literal blandness that Ogata brings to the picture. Overall, the original Gojira is definitely one of my favorite Godzilla films. The characters are decent, the music and special effects are great, the story is good, and is really a good movie in the end. I give the original Godzilla a 9 out of 10.
And so, that was the original Godzilla, a inspirational film in the art of story and suitmation. Next time, we'll be taking a look at the film's sequel, Godzilla Raids Again. So, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and at the end of the day, sayonara.